Today is Tuesday, April 24th, 2012, and we are interviewing Lester Elam at the Illinois State Library. Lester is that 65?
Mm-hmm.
Having been born on May 10th, 1947. My name is Regina Korthals, and I'll be the interviewer. Lester, could you state for the recording what war and branch of service you served in?
I served in Vietnam War in the United States Army.
Okay. What was your rank?
Specialist 5. That's called E5. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And where did you serve?
I served the different places while I was in the service.
Yes.
Okay, I took my basic training in Fort Leonard Wood.
I'm sorry?
Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Leonard Wood, yeah.
Okay.
And then from there I took my schooling in Fort Eustis, Virginia. And then from there I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which I was held until I got my orders for Vietnam. And after Vietnam, I come back and I served at Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah, Georgia.
Where were you in Vietnam specifically?
Chu Lai.
Chu Lai.
That's about 40 miles south of Da Nang.
Okay, what was your job assignment, like your primary job assignment?
Okay, I took schooling to be a helicopter instrument man. And later on, after in Vietnam, they combined what they call the MOS, 68J20, to be electrician and instrument. So I had to do electrical plus instrument work on helicopters, Hueys.
Okay. Did you see combat while you were there?
No, ma'am. We had Tet Offensive stuff, but I was not out in the field. I had to keep the gunships going for.
Okay. Did you see many casualties?
Yes, coming and going. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you tell me a couple of your memorable experiences that you had?
Well, do you want to plumb through the military or?
Yeah, through
Okay, well,
major happenings, I guess, during your service.
I'll try to keep it short, just kind of long.
Oh, well, we have time.
My wife and I got married June the 10th, 1966, and about a month later, I got a letter that said, "Greetings, your friends and neighbors have selected you for the armed services." Quite a wedding present.
Yes, ma'am.
And of course, we both naturally cried and was upset. But I went off to service, served basic in Fort Leonard, Missouri. And from there, I got my schooling. I wanted to become an instrument man on helicopters. So to do so, can I back up just a second on there?
This is your interview. You can talk.
Okay, my basic, what was cute about this, cute story, my basic, I took my basic and they started giving us our MOS, which tells you what you're going to be doing for your time of service. Like I said at first, I was drafted. And I got my MOS, and I was just tickled to death. It was combat engineer. And we had a fellow that just got back from Vietnam that was helping out with the new troops there at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And we got kindred spirits, and he called me and said, Private Elam, said, "What'd you get?" I said, "Combat engineer." To myself, I'm thinking, boy, they see something to me that I don't see, you know. And because, you know, it sounds big.
Yeah.
And he said, "Are you married?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, you go home these 2 weeks leave," and said, "You love and hug on your wife." Because he said, "You know what combat engineer does in Vietnam?" And I said, "Nope." He said, "He's the one that goes into the jungles, bulldoze and all, clears paths for supply and for the troops to move on." He said, "You are actually just a target for snipers for VC Charlie." He said, "The life expectancy is around 60-some days in state in Vietnam." Oh, my knees buckled. I turned white. I went to see my commander. He said, "Well, you got to go up battalion and see the commander there to see what he can do about it." So I went up there, and he said, "Yes, we can get you out of that." He said, "You'll have to sign another year of service, and that means go RA. US means you've been drafted. RA means you signed up on your own, enlisted on your own." And he said, "Do you have any idea what you'd like to do?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, I'm going to leave you alone for about a half an hour." He said, "Let me bring this book, and you look at it." He brought a book. I'm telling you, it's that thick. It had to be 4 to 5 inches thick. Plopped it in front of me. No idea. I just kind of looked up above, and I said, "Oh, give me a helping hand here." And I just put my thumb in, opened it up, didn't even look, just took my fingers, drug it down, and I stopped on 68J20, helicopter instrument man. Well, he come in and said, you found out what you'd like to do while you're in our wonderful Army? I said, yes, this right here. He said, well, let me look at your papers, see if, uh, you have the grade and all to do it, And he said, there's no problem. Said, sign papers, signed several papers. So he redrew new orders for Fort Eustis, Virginia for my training. And I went there approximately 16 weeks, if I remember right. And you had to make good grades while you was in there, because if not, they threatened you to go to the CBs. CBs are ones that unload ships, load ships. And the Army helped the Navy guys do this. So you had you had something over your head that, hey, you better make good grades. And I did. And so I got done with my schooling, got my certificate, and went home to leave with wife. And then I was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And the wife went with me. We was newlyweds, as you know, not making much at all. So we lived off base. I got approximately $106 a month, so you see how tight things got. Kind of cute while I was there. I'll just step on a few, just one thing or maybe a couple. My wife, I don't think she could do good. She made tuna casserole. We ate a lot of tuna casserole. And the last week of the month, we got paid once a month. It got pretty tight that last week, and we'd go on base there for Bragg at PX, and you could get like 6 pot pies for $1. And of course, I had to drive back and forth to base, so money was tight for gas. But the last Thursday of the month, the drive-in theater there had a special. If you had a Chevy, they would let you get in free. So we lived in a duplex, another couple. He was at Fort Bragg also. And we would pop bottles of cash in, pop up a big box of popcorn, and make iced tea. And I had a Chevy, 61 Chevy. So we'd all load in and go and watch the free movies and eat popcorn. Well, from there, I got my assignment for Vietnam, which was when I first arrived in the country of Vietnam. It's Bien Hoa, which is kind of a layaway station until they decide where they want to put you. And I was there for approximately 3 to 4 days before I got my orders. Touch on something kind of cute there. It was the first and only time I had detail every morning of cleaning out the restrooms. It was outside restroom. And you had to burn it. It was in barrels. You had to pull it out, pour diesel fuel in to burn. And I always remember that. I thought, I took schooling and all, be burning crap. But anyway, I got my orders for July, and I arrived in July, and immediately hit the ground running, working on the helicopters. I worked for the 151st, which was attached to the 71st Assault Helicopters. It was called the Fighting Redbirds. And we had rockets on the gunships. We had 50 cals. We also had gunners on each side. So you had to keep the aircraft going because we had infantrymen that depended on us immensely. I mean, if a ship come in with rounds or whatever, or broke down with something, you had to get on it. And that was what's good about the crew that I was with over there. There was no slackers. Everybody gave 110%. And my experience was in Vietnam. Well, I was there during the Tet Offensive. That was in February of '68, and they blew up our ammo dump. They broke into our company. Now, people in the States think when you say a company or something, you think of Fort Bragg, Fort Leonard Wood, the forts in the United States. Over there, a company is an area cleared out, and it's all tents. Our flight line was PSP, which is like a corrugated metal. We did have a pole barn that we could pull the real bad craft in underneath and work on. But anyway, they broke the perimeter. Also in our company, we had Marines. And that night they hit a buddy of mine. He grabbed the 50 cal and he said, you grab the ammo, and I got it. And of course, we got it all loaded. And about then, the Marines come up and told us, said, GIs, said, you're up ahead of us. If anybody raises up, said, you're a dead man. Said, because it broke perimeter. Well, that spooks you to death, and already our heart was up in our throat, And a rocket hit not too far from us, and that was my first experience of that. And boy, it flipped us, both of us up about 3 to 4 feet. The concussion was just awesome. Flipped the machine gun over, the ammo spilled everywhere. Luck had it, they repelled him and got him back out of the company area. Seen a lot of, like I say, people coming in from out of the fields because a lot of times they couldn't wait for medvac, so we helped get the guys in, you know. We had a lot of guys that would be out for weeks at a time. And, you know, they come back, they hadn't had a bath, and at that time, it was quite common. They would, but it's history. They would cut the ear off the Viet Cong and put them on a dog tag. You probably remember that. And have them come in, oh, they smell terrible. We was told never to look them in the eye and acknowledge them because of what they've been through. So you just pass, you know, and you just see the hollow look in their eye, and you can tell they've had a terrible experience. And it was quite traumatic to see these fellows, how they've been out in the field and just kind of like lost souls when they come back. It took a while to get them to. And, there was several stories on guys, you know, naturally get Dear John letters and stuff. One particular time, you know, you love to get letters from home, and this fellow got his Dear John letter. And I worked nights, 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning. Well, this happened during the morning. He went on the flight line, and they fired up a helicopter. And they got a main rotor blade on top, which you know, and a tail rotor, a small one on the back. And that Dear John letter, he walked in the tail rotor. It just crushed everybody, you know, because of Dear John letter. People don't realize how that is a lifeline to back home to you, you know. Then I made my tour of duty. I became Spec 5 over there. And that was awesome because that was a lot more in pay. Now the wife and I wasn't paupers any longer. And on top of it, there's benefits, you know, like anything. They would move us when I did get transferred. Well, I got my orders, excuse me, when I left Vietnam for Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah. And at first, like I did say, but at first it you know, intimidates you because you don't know where you're going. And Luck had it, a fellow I knew, he said, Les, I heard you're going to Savannah. I said, yeah. He said, well, that's where I was stationed when I got my orders from Vietnam. And he said, my wife and I would love to have you and your wife, when you first get there, to stay with us till you find a place to live. GIs are that way, we hung tight. And I said, well, I sure appreciate that. And so I come back and had 2 weeks leave, and then from there I went to Savannah, beautiful state, or city, as you all know. And the airfield was just on the edge of it. And Hunter was a company where all your high officers, generals and colonels would come, and they'd wait to be displaced in the United States to get them an outfit to be over. So my job was to keep the aircraft going because they had to get into flight time, you know. And very good duty, excellent place we lived, and my wife got a job at the hospital in admitting, and of course I worked, and it was one of the most enjoyable times we still talk about now, the enjoyable years of our life. Trying to think of something else I could tell you about Savannah, other than it was just beautiful. Made lots of friends who I still have friends today from Savannah. Then out of Savannah, I got my papers in July of '69, and I come back to Illinois and started working at A.E. Staley's and retired from there, which is now called Tet Offensive.
Sure, sure. So at any time were you a prisoner of war?
No, I was not a prisoner of war. No, ma'am.
Okay. Were you awarded any medals or citations?
Letter of commendation, which is a medal also. I can't tell you them all. Vietnam Service Medal with the wreath. You know,
do you recall any particular thing that you received?
Step forward, like in a formation. Oh, no, not really. Back then, they just kind of, you know, you'd be in your company doing something, and they'd show up and said, Elam, you got this citation. Had a ribbon in a box, you know. There was no
problem. You had talked about the Dear John letters. Can you tell us about staying in touch with your family?
We was talking the other day, and I talked to the Korean fellas and World War II fellas, and their mail was, you know, if your wife, your mother, your family wrote you a letter, it took a week to 2 weeks to get your mail. And I'll tell you, in Vietnam, to give credit to the military and the government, my wife would write a letter like on, well, let's just say today. We would have that letter within 2 days. We got our mail quite regular, which kept the spirits high over there. Mhm.
Okay. The food, do you recall what the food was like?
The food to me was, you know, it was all right. What do you expect? You're in a war zone, you know. And
Did the bagged food, the canned food?
we
Or?
had canned the sea rations. They had the LERP rations, but we very seldom
They
got
had
it.
what rations?
LERP,
Lerp?
yeah, LERP. That was a special forces group that would go out, uh, similar Green Berets or something similar to that. And they had special ones, which was state of the art at the time, is in a vacuum bag, and you would add water to it, and it swell up, and it's really good. I mean, give you an idea, they'd have this plastic bag, and they'd have these little prunes in them, and they was no bigger than, a grape. And you could put it in your cup, your canteen cup, and I think it was a cup of water or something you'd put in it, and it actually almost overflowed in that cup. They just swell up. Of course, you know over there you didn't get fruit, and they had like meatballs and spaghetti. And again, you know, just being a little bit in that pack, you put it in, and you just had a big plastic bag of
So you were
meatballs.
missing your wife's tuna casserole?
Oh yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay. I didn't know if it was
yeah.
that good that you
Oh
needed it.
yes, yes. I still like her tuna
Oh, okay.
casserole to this day.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Did you guys have plenty of supplies? Was there ever a time you had to go without any of that kind of
The
thing?
only time that I know that we went without anything, the Viet Cong had hit our PX. Now you say PX again, stateside, you think of a real nice building such as we're in now, you know, with groceries and all. That wasn't so. It was a big tent, and they had the essentials, you know, shaving cream, razor blades, soap, um, maybe a few things that was out of the ordinary, you know, maybe a Seiko watch or something like that. But the Viet Cong had hit our PX with mortar round. And it took like 3 months or so to start getting things back to where it was. So we went 3 months without any soap or anything. So you had to ride home to get soap, shaving cream, and we had a cute story on that. We had a shower which consisted of two 55-gallon drum barrels, the ends welded together. We'd pump water out of this hole there in the sand, and the water was green and mossy, but you had to bathe, you know. And people would take the soap down there, and you know, you get down to a little bitty piece of soap, and you go back to the tent, you go, oh, I forgot my soap, go back, it was gone. Pretty soon, or later on, you see different guys, and here they have a stack of big, thick bar of soap, and there'd be green, pink, yellow. But you didn't have no soap, you know.
Yeah.
If you had fortunate enough, your family would send you soap, you was in tall cotton.
I know that you had worked on the helicopters and felt that, but did you feel a lot of pressure and stress?
Um, yes, but you was young, you know.
Your
It was
adrenaline
stressful,
kept
but
you going.
today you would probably just freak out. But back then you was young, you know. You knew guys were out there depending on you to get them ships back out to save them, you know.
Okay. Did you have something special that you carried for good luck or had kept on you?
Yes, my wife's best girlfriend's mother lived at Baxter, and her mother, Helen, before I left, she gave me a Buckeye.
Oh, okay. What kind of things did you do to entertain yourself?
Well, there wasn't that much to keep you entertained. Like I said, I worked 12-hour shifts, and I'd get off in the morning, and I'd have a little bit of breakfast, and then I'd go to bed and wake up, 2 or so, and we had a tent at the edge of the compound, the EM Club, which is just a tent and a piece of plywood, and we'd get beer in from Korean War, Ballantine beer. And back then you didn't have, cute story on that, you didn't have a tab back then. You had where you punched holes in the top. And we had a special thing, which they had back then. You put the beer can in there and you pull down this lever and punch 2 holes in the top. Well, then Korean beer was, back then it wasn't aluminum cans. And the fellow, the enlisted fellows behind the bar, he'd get them cans, he'd punch them, or they'd be rusty, and he'd collapse, just drowning with beer. Oh, he would cuss and carry on. Finally get one that was good, and he'd hand it to you, you know. And it was real rusty tasting. It had that rust, you know, but you'd want the beer so bad. But we'd get these crates of Snappy Tom. They come in a can about that tall, that big around, and it's like a, for a better explanation, about like a Bloody Mary mix. It was called Snappy Tom. So you take your canteen cup, and you pour a little can of that in there, and pour the beer on top, and become tomato beer. And to this day, I still drink a tomato beer off the top.
Were there any entertainers that came to see you?
Yes, we did. And to this day, I have high respect for the man, even though he's passed on, Bob Hope. We got to see the Bob Hope show. Awesome.
That's good. What kind of things did you do when you would be on leave?
You mean when I'd go home on leave with wife? Oh, enjoy my wife. Go see lots of friends, relatives. Of course, you know, you'd eat like a pig. You know, everybody'd have cooked and all. And when I got out of service, no, when I got back from Vietnam, be corrected, when I got back from Vietnam, my brother had a big pig roast. He dug a hole in the ground and the rocks, and that was quite awesome.
Did you get to travel anywhere else while you were in the service?
You mean as a part, as being in the private sector, part travel?
While you were enlisted, did you go to other places? I know you went to Vietnam, but did you get to see other
When we were in
places?
Savannah, it was about, well, no, when I was at Fort Bragg, we would go down to White Lake, and it was a real clear lake there, and I think it was in South Carolina, I believe, called White Lake, and we'd go down there several times to swim, and the water just clear as drinking water, spring fed, and white sand, very unique place, and get sunburn. Oh, but anyway, but Savannah, we truly enjoyed that because we would go down into Florida, St. Augustine, Silver Springs, and stuff like that, because we was off every weekend when I was stationed as hunter.
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual event?
Humorous or unusual events? I got one, but I don't think you want to hear it on camera. Other than that, and I could tell it and keep it clean on the story.
Sure.
We had they have a special inspection. I mean, everything's got to be in to get the soldiers, and all the equipment's got a GI inspection, you know. And I had two buddies coming by to pick me up, and this cap here in particular is we had a special name for this cap, female anatomy, so you can take it from there. My wife knew no different than that name. She never heard, it's called a garrison cap, the proper name, but all GIs use what. And I was getting ready to leave, and she said, "Oh, Les," she said, "you forgot your cap." And my two buddies just commenced to roar, and she turned beet red. She said, "What did I do wrong?" And I said, "I will tell you when I get back." But she had no difference. You know,
Sure.
you wasn't told different. She didn't.
An inside joke that she really wasn't. You know,
And my buddies still talk about that to this day. I keep in contact with them.
Sure. Were there any pranks that you pulled or other people pulled on anybody that you can recall?
Pranks we pull. Oh, well, when I was in basic, there was a lot of pranks being pulled. To tell you a particular one, one comes to mind in basic at one time. I generally got a letter every day from my wife, and I did get one that night, and I was walking back with several friends. You know how you are, just goofing off, showing off. And I walked by a telephone pole, and I kicked it, said, "Oh, she didn't send me a letter, you know, just joking." And the captain seen me. Boy, he come over, and he looked at me and brought me attention. Said, "Private Elam, why are you kicking my pole?" And I said, "It was just kind of a joke, sir, and all this." He said, "Well, you offended my pole. Will you stand at attention to my pole?" And said, "For 30 minutes, starting now, you salute my pole and apologize." So here I am standing out there, it's like a retard, saluting the pole and apologizing to it. People walk by. Of course, they knew what went down.
Sure.
You know. Other time service, no. You know, by then you're getting pretty serious. You know, you're getting older in life.
Do you have any photos? Did you bring any photos that you would like to share with
No,
us
I sure
today?
didn't. I'm sorry. I've got several.
Okay. What did you think of your officers and fellow soldiers?
Officers, I can tell you, the MOS I dealt with officers all the time. Gentlemen, uh, very steady towards their work. I mean, they was dedicated. The fellow enlisted men as myself, everybody was dedicated to the war. When we got back to States, where I was at in Savannah, had excellent officers and guys I worked with. But one particular story there, I can tell you that to this day I talk about it. I had a black sergeant who was over me in instruments, and my in-laws had come down to visit me, and his name was Sergeant Woody. And I was working there on the instruments and all, and he come walking around there. Well, how was your weekend, Les? And this was Monday. He always done that. He was an excellent guy. I said, well, my in-laws showed up Saturday. He said, well, how long are you going to be here? I said, well, they're going to leave next Sunday. He said, well, what are you doing in here? And I said, well, Woody, I don't have any leave left. He said, you go home and spend time with your wife and the in-laws. I said, I'll cover for you. I thought that was awful nice.
It was nice. Did you keep a personal diary?
No, I didn't, dear. We saved all the letters. That could be someday, I guess.
You recall the day your service ended?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
How was that?
Elated. Wife was getting to go back home to see her family, and when mom's happy, you're happy,
Sure. Where were you when that happened?
When I was in Savannah, Georgia. Yeah, Hunter Airfield. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what did you do in the days and weeks afterward, after you got home?
When I got home, I had a job waiting for me. I worked at A.E. Staley's, and I was working there. I'd been there a year when I got engaged to my wife, and we married. And at that time, they would save your job till you got out. So when I went back, I had a job waiting for me. So I got out, and a week later, I hit the ground running, and I went back to work.
You didn't use a GI Bill to go back to school or do anything?
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yes, I did. I worked out in process. I came back in '69. I worked out in process till 1973, and they had, and still do at that time, had a bid on maintenance jobs, and that was like electrician, sheet metal, boiler maker, pipe fitter, etc. And they had some bids come up. And I tried before, but I didn't have enough seniority, so this time I bid, and I got a bid for sheet metal. And on doing so, I applied for GI Bill, no trouble, and I had 3 years apprenticeship through A.E. Staley's with a monthly check coming from the GI Bill, and they helped pay on my books and equipment I needed for. Yes, it was very good at that time.
Yeah, at that time. I understand that also. I know you've kind of touched on this before, but did you make any close friendships while in the service? Do you continue those friendships?
Yes, I
How
do.
long, you know?
One particular real close friend I have is George Sumrow. He lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. We stay in touch quite a bit. Fred, I met in Vietnam. I can't tell you Fred's last name. I even had a buddy that I was in Redmond. I was in Vietnam with, and kind of a cute story. I was working one day in the sheet metal shop in Staley's, and they called me to the office, and I got in the office, and there's sheriff's department on the phone. So I pick it up, and what have I done? I get on the phone, and they said, sir, we got a Redmond here, I'd like to talk to you. And he was traveling through the state, and he's come close to Decatur, and he stopped in. He remembered me over in Vietnam, so I was from Decatur, Illinois, and how he done detective work to find out that I was at Staley's. I to this day don't know. And we had a good weekend visit.
That's good. Did you join a veterans organization, and what kind of activities does your post do or association have?
For when I first got back up till I retired, I would touch base and would not join, but we'd go out to Legion Hall. We'd go to VFW, mainly because they had good meals.
Mm-hmm.
And I retired, and I don't know. I had my wife's boss, Hugh Rowden. My wife worked for Hugh Rowden's office manager, and and uh, he was trying to get me to join the Sodoma Club, and so I went to one of the meetings, and it just wasn't my cup of tea. And out of the blue, I was telling you, I said, uh, you know, it just wasn't my. I said, but I think I'd like to join the honor guard. What come up with that? I don't know. But we went one night out to Legion Hall, American Legions, uh, Post 105, and they have wonderful chicken dinners on Thursday and fish on Fridays. Anyway, we was having chicken dinner, and I thought, I've stepped my foot in it. I got to do something now. So somebody served me. I said, I'd like to join the honor guard. Is there anybody I could talk to? And who's here today with us, Jim Parker. Here he came. He said, you want to join the honor guard? I said, yeah. I said, come in tomorrow and talk to me, and we'll see, what we can do and see if you have the stuff that we. So that's how I wound up in the honor guard, and I love it.
What does the honor guard do?
Pardon?
Exactly. The honor guard, what do they do?
What we do, the honor guard, we veterans that have passed away, we do the military gravesite for them, and we hear so many good compliments. We have our colored guards, which has the flags and all, and then we also have a rifle squad, and then we have a chaplain under the tent for the bereaved family, and then we have what we call a tent commander who helps give a military type service to our fallen comrade, which is very emotional, and we've not had no negative complaints. And I've been in honor guard going close to 3 to 4 years now, and it's always been the family is so appreciative of it. Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this a little bit already, but what career did you choose after your service time?
Well, I wound up, like I said, going to sheet metal. Mm-hmm. 38 years I served at Tet and Lyle.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or the military in general?
For me, I'm going to say yes to the fact that it mellowed me out some. War is not the answer. I'm going to tell you. I seen and been and it's a last resort. I can see why there's a long wait before anything. This bomb the place, let God sort it out thing is not the answer. I mean, I think any person in the military who uses their head can tell you that it does. It kind of.
Do you attend reunions with any of your fellow?
No, dear. I'm sorry. No, I don't.
Okay. How has your service and experiences affected your life?
I'm going to say, especially the MOS, helicopter electrician and instrument man. I was in high school. I made decent grades. I didn't try to. The only thing expected of me was to graduate from high school. And I was told I'd be 29 years old still in high school, but I was going to graduate. So to make me buckle down and really study, I had it easy in high school. But when I got out, I got in service, and then all of a sudden I was thrown in Fort Houston, Virginia, and I was told I had to make a C or above. I was going to the Seabees, so I buckled down. And I was married. I wasn't running or anything. And I've got paper to show you. I made almost straight A's in Fort Eustis. And it got me to the mindset, hey, this slacking and just every day is a fun day. So when I got out, I knew I was going to have to get a craft or go back to college or something. And I got a craft. I missed it. I didn't go to college. I probably could have and not had any problem. But my craft was good to me, too. I retired and make a decent living. So.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, not unless you prod me.
No, well, I thank you very much.
Okay.
Lester, for your time and for telling us your stories and stuff
Thank you,
today.
dear.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome. Could I get some spellings, actually?